This is Hannah and Cailin, back again with Double Talk. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Cailin.
Mark Bowden is a world-renowned expert in body language, a keynote speaker, and a best-selling author. Recognized as the #1 body language professional by global gurus on 3 occasions, Mark has set the bar for understanding and interpreting nonverbal communication. He is also a key member of the Behavior Panel, a team of 4 top body language analysts who dissect the behaviors of prominent figures, including politicians, celebrities, and criminals. Mark's insights empower viewers and professionals to decode human behavior, enhance interpersonal communication, and effectively influence decisions. His work supports people and organizations in achieving success by fostering trust, credibility, and influence in both personal and professional settings. One of our all-time favorite guests, Mark returns to Double Talk today to dive into topics ranging from the benefits and challenges of working and socializing on Zoom to uncovering the secret to having meaningful political discussions. Listen in.
It's now 4.5 years since the pandemic began, and you look around and it's almost to the point where it's become the standard. You expect to do so many things on Zoom, and the pandemic, people are healthy enough and it's safe enough now that we're able to return to work, and yet it's almost like we got into the habit of doing so many different things socially, professionally, on Zoom and, on the phone, any different way we might connect virtually. But what are the implications? Let's say we look 5-10 years down the line. There are kids that have only ever done
virtual school.
That's another thing. What do you make of that? What are the implications?
Well, look, the world is full of risk and reward, prizes and punishment, okay? There is no one thing I would suggest that is all prize or potentially all punishment. I mean, there may be some things that are all punishment to one person, but there's rewards for others when others get punished. That's why punishment exists, because there's a reward somewhere along the line. So let's think about this virtual world that we're in right now, which came around. This came around last time we chatted. I mean, I think we were right in COVID.
Yes, it was peak COVID time. It was to the point where it was still weird to be doing a Zoom conversation, and now it's so normal.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, and here's the interesting thing. You said to me earlier on, I'm starting this job at Scholastic, and immediately I thought, I think there's an office here in Toronto. So I was thinking, when you come, because you probably will, you got to get in contact with me because we should meet up. Here's the thing: without that virtual world, we'd have never have met. We wouldn't feel as close as we do right now. We wouldn't feel so close as we do right now that I'm able to say, hey, when you come to Toronto, because you will at some point, you got to make sure we meet. I feel related to you, even though, I've never been within a hand's distance.
It almost feels like we could be, but I know, right?
Okay, so there's a bit of magic that happens here.
That's a great point. It's a great point.
We mustn't deny the magic that happens, that you can create very fast and very cheaply and at great distance some quite strong relationships. And we mustn't ever undermine that. But I think what we have to do is go, what's the next level for this? And should we afford to go to the next level? Now, look, if the next level between you and I is, hey, we should meet up if we're in the same place, look, there's not a lot of risk to that because I already know you enough that I feel comfortable. I'm hoping that you'd feel
totally
with me. I mean, you're coming anyway, perhaps. I've only got to walk down the road. If suddenly we meet up face to face and suddenly we all decide, actually, we're a bunch of idiots. One of us can go, oh, you know what? I just got a phone call. Or, oh, is that the time? I've got to go. And it's not been a huge risk. So risk and reward. Now, here's the thing that you're probably noticing in the world of work at the moment is that maybe employers are saying, hey, we definitely want you in. We certainly want you in maybe 2 days a week, let's say. Just throw that out there as an idea. Well, why are they doing that? Because they're suggesting there is more reward if you come in for them and for you, for knitting the team together, than the risk of you coming in. Now, what's the risk that you come in? Well, I mean, you have to spend the money on travel. You have to dress properly. Certainly, you know, all the way from your head to your toes. You know, you can't get away with. I mean, at the moment, look, I have got trousers on, but I don't have any shoes on.
I don't either.
That's all of us have gone, you know what? I think I'm okay. I don't need to afford socks and shoes right now. If we're to meet up face to face, you and I, all three of us are gonna have to put some socks and shoes on, probably.
Probably, yeah. Probably, yeah.
So, you know, I think as we're talking about this, we've always got to think, what is the risk of showing up live face to face? What's the reward of it? And what risk might we be avoiding by not showing up face to face, by staying, you know, with our relationships online? And what reward is out there if we just risked it, just that little moment to show up face to face? You know, anyway, what are your thoughts on that?
What you were mentioning, the reward, I do think that there's a reward that you're missing out on by not going in person. And I've missed that so much that just the past couple of years of working remotely. One of the things I was most excited about when I got the job at Scholastic is that they require you to go in office a couple of times a week. And it's almost like the risk, there's certain things, I mean, you can get into like, gosh, meeting people that you've only met virtually in person. I guess there could be a danger, I guess you wouldn't know in person, but then like the risk and the reward that you're missing out on as far as like working remotely versus working in person, I almost feel like you're risking like a stronger connection, you're risking better experiences, and it could be more of a chance for culture clashes too, I guess. Yeah, but I almost feel like you're almost leaving a comfort zone. Like I've been thinking about that. The fact that I'm starting, I think there's a difference between starting a first day at a job remotely, like I did my last job, and starting a first day at a job where you're walking into the office for the first time. It almost is like leaving a comfort zone that you've become accustomed to. Yeah. If you've been working remotely, but I think it's a good thing. I think that like, and I started a new job about 8 weeks ago, and the way that it's set up now is I have to come in 5 days a week for my first 90 days to get established. See, but they do that for a reason. And that makes you think like clearly that they see the reward in coming in person, especially for onboarding new employees, and they clearly see value in being there in person. That wouldn't be the same if I was remote. And I'm also coming from working remotely. I really think that especially for collaboration and meetings and bouncing ideas off of each other, I think that there is a benefit to just being able to drop by and on your way to get a coffee or something, just being able to drop by somebody's office and say, well, what did you think about the conversation in that meeting? I was kind of, what this person said kind of reminded me of this. Like, it's almost like you have conversations that if you weren't in person, you might just be like, it's not worth it.
There's no moments of bumping into somebody and going, oh, you know what? I was just thinking of this idea. What do you think of that? At the moment, because pretty much, a lot of the day I'm here, I'm working on my own pretty much. And if I want to bounce an idea off of something, I have to bounce it off of ChatGPT.
That's a whole other conversation. Oh my gosh.
I go, look, here's my idea for a title of a video. What are your 5 best ideas? And sometimes it wins and sometimes I win. Sometimes I'm like, no, my ideas are much better. And sometimes I'm like, damn, ChatGPT, that was really good. That's a really good.
I am always so impressed by ChatGPT. Yeah. Every time I remember the first time we discovered it is we were with our little cousin, and we were at eating buffalo wings, watching a football game, and we were like, what is this ChatGPT? Like, I'm gonna tell ChatGPT that I'm worried that Michigan is gonna win the game. And that was and its reaction was like, well, Ryan Day has a great experience as a coach, and like, I was like, what? It's like I'm talking to a person. And that was my first experience with that. But yeah, no, it's weird. Sometimes it does feel like that you're bouncing ideas off of somebody, but it can't be the same, right?
No, it's not the same. So here's the interesting thing. Here's what I'd love people to do. Before we go any further, when you're watching this, okay, go into ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, Hannah and Cailin are talking to Mark, okay? Mark Bowden. What do you think they're going to end up talking about. Okay. And see what ChatGPT comes up with, and then watch the rest of this video. Okay. Listen to the rest of this and see if it was accurate. Because here's the thing, there's a lot of complexity that's going on here. There's a lot of ways that this could go. Already, this has gone in a direction that I wasn't expecting. I mean, I wasn't really expecting anything. I didn't know. I don't mind where we go, and I'm very pleased about where we're going, but I can't predict it. I doubt ChatGPT is anywhere close at the moment as to where we are on this, because human beings are not computers. Our brains are nothing like a computer, though we often go, oh, that person's got great processing power, or, they're an absolute mainframe of a mind, okay? The human brain doesn't work like a computer at all. It has a kind of a guessing system whereby it kind of guesses best as to what should happen next, but with other things that are guessing best as well, and then makes its decisions around that. So it's quite complex and chaotic what we're doing right now. Yeah. By the way, Hannah, congratulations on your job as well. And you know what? It says something to me that your organization is going, hey, we want you in 5 times a week. Nothing wrong with 2 times a week or 1 time a week. But 5 times a week suggests, to your point, okay, culture clash. It kind of says, hey, for you to really understand how we work, yeah. And for us to really understand you and make sure that you can be part of this group, we kind of really feel that you need to immerse yourself in this to get a real feel of it. And that says to me, because it's an expensive thing coming in 5 days a week, because it's a lot of load on everybody else. Everybody has a lot more load. You got to meet more people. You've got to make more cups of tea. It's like, oh, do you want a cup of tea? I was going to say, oh, do you want a cup of coffee? I was just getting suddenly you're getting 4. Suddenly somebody who was being polite is now getting 5 cups of coffee.
Exactly. It's the politeness that'll do it. Yeah.
So there's a lot of load that goes into that. There's a lot of work that goes into that. And I think what they're suggesting is the risk of the work is worth the reward that we get in the end of a cohesive team. Now, here's the thing. You're absolutely right, is that cultures meeting cultures is a risk. Look, Hannah, Cailin, you're from a different family than me, okay? We were brought up in different countries. I don't know whether you weren't brought up in New York, were you? You were from outside of New York?
Yeah, all up and down the East Coast of the United States.
Okay, so East Coast, what, country or cities or towns? Whereabouts were you?
Born in Philadelphia, slowly inched our way all the way down to Florida, and then slowly inched our way all the way back up to Pennsylvania, and then went to school on Long Island. College.
Wow, so you moved quite a bit. You've been through quite a few different...
Yeah, a few bunch of southern states.
Interesting. Yeah. So look, the moment we start talking to each other, there is a risk that I will say something that you don't agree with. I could even offend you and not really mean to. But ultimately, I'm from a different, I was born in 1970, by the way. My guess is, were you guys even, I mean, you weren't even alive then. What?
No, we were born in 96.
Yeah.
96?
Yeah.
Wow, I remember when on things like this, I'd be the youngest person in the room, and now I'm not anymore. So we're from, potentially different ages, different cultures. Okay, you're female, I'm male. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. And the moment we open our mouths to each other, there's a massive risk of getting something wrong. And so many people won't even open their mouths. What I love about you both is that you make this podcast huge risk, because there's going to be so many people who've got just nothing better to do than go, well, I don't like you. I don't like you. And even if they do like you, you could say something and they go, I think you said the wrong thing.
It's amazing how quickly people will have some public figure, some singer, actor
they
idolize. And because they took that risk of giving their opinion on something, or endorsing or not endorsing somebody or something else, it's amazing how quickly people turn on a dime, and now they're like, I'm disappointed in this person.
Yeah. It just goes to show that there's a certain, talk about connection. It's such a surface level of connection that it's easier to kind of turn on somebody if you don't know them that well.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because this interaction and your fans, their interactions with you probably feel very much like family. They probably feel,
Yeah.
everybody feels very, very connected, okay? And you probably might even use that word, family. Now, the interesting thing, I think, with really good families is they stay together regardless because they have this ability and this they make decisions to forgive each other for things that go wrong. It's not that the things weren't bad and they weren't wrong, okay? They were wrong, but they have a culture that says, look, eventually we have to forgive because the punishment is too much if you don't forgive, because you don't have the closeness anymore. And that's really important. What's interesting for your family of fans is you might say something and they go, hang on, you said the wrong thing. And they don't forgive, which meant they never were really family.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting how this virtual world can engender quite quickly that feeling of the familiar and strong family ties. But then we soon see when there's transgressions that they weren't strong family ties. And I think the unfortunate thing is that can be disappointing.
I can't believe how seamlessly you kind of transitioned into one of my next topics of discussion, which is obviously, Mark, you know that we just had the presidential election cycle here in the U.S. Obviously, a lot of tension, a lot of heated discussion, really emotionally charged, I think, election in particular. And it's funny that you mentioned disagreements between family because, with the election cycle just ending and with the holidays approaching, people are thinking about, we hear all of these jokes about, oh my gosh, at the Thanksgiving table this year, oh my gosh, the politics, I can't even imagine.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. We're going to North Carolina. We go to North Carolina every year where most of our family is. Yeah. And the topic is I hope everyone behaves themselves. Yeah, because it's a lot of our families from the South, there are differing viewpoints. And I understand that viewpoints, especially with politics, have a lot to do with the way you're raised. And it's very hard to change people's minds and things like that. But I find it so interesting, just from my own experience and the stories that I hear. I think that there's something about politics that really strikes a nerve with people. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about what that is, and then also how to have either kind of, change the subject or brush off discussions, or just in general have more productive conversations. And is there anything that we can do to prevent animosity? Yeah.
Okay, well, let's take it from that angle. First of all, let's discuss a little bit about why politics get so charged.
Yeah, I'm curious.
And then what you can do about it from your point of view. We can't legislate for what anybody else does, but we can look after ourselves and by that try and have a better Thanksgiving. Look, I think politics gets so charged because it's based on values. Values are the things that we think are most important. And what Hannah, what Cailin, what you think is most important is not necessarily what your family down south think is most important. There may be some intersections, absolutely, but there may be some vastly different things that you're going, well, this is really, maybe you might go, look, our right around this is really important. And they might go, well, no, our right around this other thing over here, that's most important. And so there's conflict around that. So first of all, understand when people are getting embedded and entrenched in an idea, it's because they believe it's most important, okay? And it's a belief. They don't necessarily have any evidence for it. Or if they do, you've got contrary evidence for it, okay? And the more evidence you deliver, the more they deny your evidence, the more they get entrenched, and vice versa. It's pretty fruitless over the short term to get into discussions where you're thinking you might be able to change somebody's mind. I've seen many of those, great YouTube videos where somebody sits there with a banner saying, change my mind again. So for a start, let's not go down that route. Now, here's another important thing, I think. Some people around that table will have voted one way or another way. They voted for this potential president or this potential president, and one of those has won.
Yes.
Just because they voted for this one or this one, it doesn't mean they think everything that that person says or stands for is good and is right. They had a choice of two. Freedom for them was a choice of two. The most free thing they could do was go that one or that one. Imagine you went to the supermarket and they went, you are free to buy anything you like as long as it's this brand of fries or this other brand of fries.
There's only two options.
You're free for whatever you like, okay? As long as it's those two. You'd go, oh, hang on. And you go, well, I'm going for that one. And they go, why are you going for that? Somebody go, why are you going for that one? Those ones are better. It's like, I don't know, I like this about them. Yeah, but there's this downside to them. Yeah, I know, but I like this upside. So, and I've only got a choice of two. So I think you've got to remember that, because people will go, they may well go at your dinner table, hey, which way did you go on this? Okay. Or they might suspect you went a certain way. Okay. And they might be trying to goad you or poke you, or maybe they're with the best intention. They're just being inquisitive. Yeah. One thing to say is, you know what? Here's the way if you want to tell them, and you don't have to, of course you don't. If, the way I went was this, because I like this about them. I don't like this thing about them, but I only had a choice of two. And this was the way I decided to go, given what was most important to me was this. There are many things that I don't think are right about that candidate, but this I thought was good, and so that's where I went. Remember, when somebody says to you, hey, I voted this way or I voted this way, remember they did it probably for just one primary reason.
I always try to tell myself too, is like, everyone's doing what they believe is the right thing. Like, that's the one thing that we all have in common. We're all doing what we think is the right thing.
Yeah.
When you're talking about, the candidate that you suspect they maybe voted for, you can go, hey, I don't know which way you voted, but, I really liked this about your candidate. In the end, what I liked about mine was mainly this thing over here. There are some problems, I will grant you, but it was mainly this thing over here. So I had to weigh up this thing that I really liked about my candidate against this thing that I did not like about yours.
That's a great way to find a common ground.